The Valen once lived among the stars with pride. They were not the strongest people in the galaxy, nor the most advanced, but they were known for their careful ways. They mapped the trade lanes. They guided fleets through dangerous clusters, and they were trusted as patient keepers of knowledge. For many generations, they served the great alliance of civilizations. Their small voices were not always heard, but they believed loyalty was enough. That loyalty was tested when a border war erupted between two powerful empires. The Valen were caught in the middle. They did not have great fleets to defend themselves, nor armies to send. They begged for peace, but their pleas were ignored. When the dust cleared, the empires blamed the Valen for the loss of a key route. It was easier to accuse a weak people than to admit their own mistakes. A single vote in the Great Council sealed their fate. The Valen were branded as untrustworthy. Their membership was revoked, their world stripped of protection, their rights erased. Ships from stronger powers entered their home system. Factories were dismantled. Records of their history were removed from the archives. They were told they no longer belonged to the galaxy. For the Valen, exile was a sentence worse than battle. They had no fleets to resist. Their technology was decades behind the great powers. Their only choice was to flee. 1,000 ships, old and patched together, carried away what remained of their people. Families crowded into vessels built for trade, not travel. Every corner became a shelter. Every ration was counted. What had once been a nation became a wandering caravan in the endless dark. At first, the Valen believed they would find a new world. They searched through catalogs of stars, chasing rumors of unclaimed planets. Each time hope rose, disappointment followed. A world would be rich with minerals but toxic to breathe. Another would hold water but no soil for crops. Some were claimed by pirates, others patrolled by rival species. The caravan moved on, drifting deeper into silence. Years passed. The children of exile grew up never seeing a true sky. They learned to walk in narrow corridors, to live with the hum of old engines, to eat from ration blocks that tasted of metal. The elders told stories of wide oceans and silver towers on their lost homeworld. But to the young, those stories felt like myths. The ships aged faster than the people. Hulls cracked, reactors burned out, oxygen systems failed. Each time a ship fell silent, the caravan gathered to mourn. Survivors were spread across the remaining vessels. The number of ships shrank from 1,000 to a few hundred, then to less than 100. Every loss was a wound that could not heal. Despite this, the Valen did not give up. They kept order through councils held in cramped meeting rooms. They wrote down their songs so the children would remember. They trained navigators to chart new courses through the stars. They believed that somewhere there must be a place where they would be safe, but despair crept closer with each passing year. Supplies grew thin. Farms inside hydroponic bays produced less and less. Some spoke of turning back, begging forgiveness from the alliance that had cast them out. Others said they should settle on any barren rock and make the best of it, even if it meant slow death. The leaders could not agree. Hope was their only currency, and even that was running out. Then, after nearly a generation in exile, one of the last scouts returned with a report. At the edge of a yellow star lay a blue planet. It was alive, rich with oceans, air, and land. Sensors showed a growing civilization. The planet was not empty. It was claimed. But it was claimed by a species few in the galaxy spoke of, a people dismissed as young and reckless. Their name was humanity. The council gathered to debate. Some warned that approaching another people could only bring danger. Had they not already been betrayed by neighbors they once trusted? The galaxy had made it clear that no one wanted them. To ask again for shelter might invite another rejection, yet others argued that they had no choice. Their food stores were weeks from empty. Engines were failing. If they drifted on, extinction was certain. At least with this blue planet there was a chance. Perhaps these humans would listen. Perhaps they would not care about the old vote of the council. The decision was made. The caravan would turn toward the yellow star. The Valen ships aligned their broken drives and set course for the world called Earth. As the stars shifted before them, no one knew what awaited. Would it be kindness or cruelty? Would it be another wound or the first step to healing? The only certainty was that the journey of exile had reached its limit. The Valen were at the edge of survival, and soon they would learn if humanity would open its arms or close its gates. The Valen caravan moved toward the yellow star with a mix of fear and hope. Their ships were tired machines patched again and again, each journey carrying the risk of failure. Inside the hulls, Families whispered prayers. Children asked questions no elder could answer, and navigators studied the fading lights of their screens. Every soul felt the weight of the decision. The journey to the new system took weeks. During this time, life inside the vessels became even harder. Water was rationed to the last drop. Hydroponic bays barely produced enough food to feed the youngest. Engines stuttered, and engineers worked without rest to keep them alive. It was a march against time. If they reached the planet, they might live. If they failed, they would drift forever in silence. On one ship, an old teacher named Laro gathered the children and told them stories to keep fear away. He spoke of rivers that ran for thousands of steps, of skies filled with birds that shone like jewels, and of nights when stars could be seen with the naked eye. The children listened with wide eyes, trying to imagine such wonders. They had never seen a river, a bird, or a sky. For them, life was corridors, recycled air, and the hum of engines. Yet the stories gave them strength. On another ship, Mira, a young engineer, kept watch over the reactor. She had grown up during exile, learning to mend machines that should have been retired long ago. She knew every sound of the engines, every flicker of the lights. Each day she feared this would be the day the heart of her ship would stop beating. Still, she worked with steady hands. She told herself that if they could reach the planet, she would finally rest. The closer they came to the yellow star, the more signs of failure showed. One vessel's oxygen system broke beyond repair, and the caravan gathered in silence as its crew was moved to the remaining ships. Space grew tighter. Corridors that already felt small became narrower still. Tempers rose, but the leaders urged patience. The people must hold together or all would be lost. When at last the yellow star filled their viewports, a murmur of awe spread through the fleet. It was warmer, brighter, and more alive than the lonely stars they had passed for so long. Beyond it hung the blue planet. Oceans gleamed like sapphire, and white clouds curled over green lands. To the Velan it looked like a miracle, but fear still gnawed at them. Would the humans welcome strangers? Would they call them enemies? Would they fire upon their fragile ships? The council debated through long hours. Some argued they should remain hidden, observing from afar. Others said there was no time left. Food was almost gone, and reactors were on the edge of failure. They must try. The decision was made to send a single signal. It was a simple call for help, broadcast on all frequencies the Velan knew. No demand, no threat, only a plea. Then they waited. Days passed and silence filled the comms. Doubt returned. Some whispered that the humans had heard but chose to ignore them. Some feared worse, that armed fleets were already moving toward them. Still, they waited, for there was nothing else they could do. At last, a voice broke through the static. It was unlike the voices of the Great Council, deep and formal. This voice was clear and curious. It asked who they were, where they had come from, and why they were here. The Velan leader answered with honesty. They were exiles, cast out by the galaxy, searching for a place to live before the void swallowed them whole. The human voice did not reply with anger or mockery. Instead, it spoke with calm. It asked for more details. It promised to send observers. And then it said words the Velan had almost forgotten. It said, "We hear you. Wait for us." The caravan waited in silence, hearts pounding. Then small ships appeared from the blue planet, rising through the void like silver birds. They did not come with weapons charged. They came with lights flashing in patterns of peace. For the first time in years, the Velan allowed themselves to believe that mercy might be real. As the human ships drew near, the Velan pressed their faces to the windows. Children pointed with wonder. Elders wept quietly. Engineers whispered thanks to their weary machines for carrying them this far. The humans hailed them again, this time with images and words translated through careful effort, smiles, open hands, gestures of welcome. The journey of exile had brought the Velan to the edge of despair. Now, as they drifted into orbit of the blue planet, they felt a spark of something they had not felt in a generation. It was not yet safety, not yet home, but it was the chance of both. And for a people who had wandered the dark for so long, that chance was more precious than any treasure. The Velan ships drifted in orbit around the blue planet, waiting in uneasy silence. Their hulls were scarred, their engines weak, and their people weary. For years they had known only rejection. Now, as the human ships approached, they felt fear and hope clash inside their hearts. The first human vessel moved close to the flagship of the Velan caravan. Its design was strange to alien eyes. It was not sleek like the cruisers of the Great Council. It was solid, heavy, and strong, built with straight lines and sharp edges. It looked like a machine made for work and survival, not for beauty. To the Velan, it carried an air of determination. On board the human vessel, a crew prepared for the moment of contact. They had studied the signals sent by the Velan. They had seen the broken ships, the crowded decks, and the tired faces. They knew these travelers were desperate, yet they also knew caution was needed. First contact could change everything. The humans sent another signal, this time carrying not only sound but also images. The Velan saw a woman's face appear on their screens. Her skin was pale, her hair dark, her eyes steady. She spoke slowly. Her words carried through translation devices that worked hard to bridge the gap between languages. "We are the people of Earth," she said. "We welcome you." "Who are you?" The Velan leader, an elder named Saren, stepped forward. His voice trembled, yet he spoke with dignity. "We are Velan. Once we had a home. It was taken. The galaxy cast us out. We ask only for a place to rest, for food, for air. If you send us away, we have nowhere left to go." The humans listened in silence. The woman nodded, her expression calm. "We understand. Tell us what you need. Tell us how we can help." These words struck the Velan like a wave. They had expected suspicion, demands, or rejection. Instead, they were met with care. For a moment, the council chamber aboard the flagship filled with quiet disbelief. Then voices rose, some in joy, some in tears. The humans sent shuttles carrying supplies. Food packs, clean water, and medical kits were delivered to the most damaged ships first. Human engineers boarded the vessels with tools in hand, ready to repair broken systems. The Velan watched in awe as these strangers worked tirelessly, not asking for payment or tribute, only focusing on saving lives. For many Velan, this was the first time they had ever seen another species offer kindness. Children touched the hands of human visitors, curious about their warm skin. Elders bowed in gratitude. The sick were carried to human medics who treated them with care. The atmosphere of despair that had hung over the fleet for years began to lift, replaced by cautious hope. Yet not all were certain. Some Velan feared this was a trick. They whispered that the humans might use them as servants or trade them back to the council for favors. Saren listened to these voices but answered with calm. "We cannot live in fear forever. If the humans mean to harm us, then at least we will fall after knowing kindness once more." On Earth, the arrival of the Velan caused both wonder and worry. News spread across cities and villages. Some humans feared the strangers would bring danger. Others saw them as guests in need. Leaders met to decide how to act. The final choice was clear. The Velan would be welcomed, not as enemies but as neighbors. The humans prepared safe landing zones in open deserts and mountain valleys where the Velan ships could settle. Engineers worked to make sure the air, soil, and water would support them. Farmers offered seeds, teachers offered lessons, and workers volunteered to build shelters. Humanity, still young in the galaxy, chose not to close its gates. When the first Velan ship descended through the skies of Earth, the sight was breathtaking. Clouds parted around the scarred vessel, and crowds of humans watched with awe. Children waved flags while elders whispered prayers. For the Velan inside, the view of oceans and green land was overwhelming. Many wept openly, seeing a true world again for the first time in their lives. The landing was rough, but the humans rushed forward to guide the newcomers out. The Velan stepped onto soil with trembling legs. The ground was warm beneath their feet, the air fresh with scents they had never known. Birds flew overhead, their wings flashing in the sun. To the exiles, it was like stepping into a dream. The first meeting on the ground was simple. Humans and Velan stood together, exchanging gestures of peace. No weapons were drawn, no threats spoken. Instead, there was food shared, water poured, and words of welcome repeated. That night, fires burned in the desert camps as both peoples sat side by side. Songs were sung in 2 languages, stories told across the gap of stars. For the first time in generations, the Velan felt not like exiles, but like guests. They were not home yet, but they were no longer alone. The galaxy had cast them out, but here on Earth, a door had opened. And behind that door stood a species that believed in giving shelter when others refused. Humanity had taken the first step, and the Velan, hearts full of fragile hope, stepped forward to meet them. The first weeks on Earth were filled with wonder and confusion for the Velan. They had lived so long in the narrow corridors of their ships that the open world felt almost unreal. Many of them stood outside for hours, staring at skies painted in colors they had never seen. Some were frightened by the sound of the wind moving across the desert or the calls of animals in the distance. Others laughed like children when they felt rain for the first time. Humans built camps near the landing sites. Large tents, supply depots, and medical stations were set up quickly. Engineers worked beside Valen technicians to repair broken machines and restore power to damaged ships. Farmers from nearby villages brought baskets of grain and vegetables. Doctors carried crates of medicine and taught Valen healers how to use them. The strangers became neighbors, and slowly trust began to grow. But living together was not easy. The Valen had their own ways, their own rules shaped by years of exile. They ate different food, they slept in different cycles, and they feared waste above all else. In the camps, humans sometimes offered more than the Valen could accept. A child would hide food given to him, afraid that tomorrow there would be none. Elders scolded young ones for pouring water freely, for every drop had once been precious in the void. The humans did not laugh at these habits. Instead, they listened and learned. They realized that survival in exile had shaped the Valen deeply. To help them adjust, teachers began to visit the camps. They explained how rivers flowed endlessly, how crops could be planted again and again, and how Earth had enough to share. Slowly, the Valen began to believe it. One evening, Saren, the elder leader, stood before both peoples gathered around a fire. He raised his voice so all could hear. "We were told the galaxy had no place for us. Yet here you have given us food, water, and safety. We thank you, not as beggars, but as partners. If you teach us, we will also teach you. Let this be not a gift, but an exchange." From that night onward, the Valen shared their own knowledge. Their navigators taught humans new ways to chart the stars, showing them maps passed down through generations. Their builders showed designs for energy cells that could last longer than human models. Their farmers introduced hardy plants that grew well in thin soil. Humanity, young but eager, welcomed every lesson. There were moments of difficulty, too. A misunderstanding arose when a group of humans entered a Valen ship without warning, thinking to help with repairs. To the Valen, who still carried the memory of raids and betrayal, it felt like an invasion. Voices were raised and fear spread. But instead of letting anger grow, both sides gathered in council. They spoke openly, explained their worries, and agreed on rules of respect. From this conflict came stronger trust, built on honesty rather than silence. In time, small communities began to form. Some Valen moved into villages offered by humans, learning to live in houses made of stone and wood instead of metal walls. Others chose to stay with their ships, building new homes around the landing sites. Humans visited often, bringing tools and sharing meals. Friendships were born. Children from both peoples played together in the sand, chasing each other under the wide sky. Mira, the young Valen engineer, worked closely with human technicians. She admired their simple but effective machines, built with strength rather than elegance. She shared her knowledge of star drives, and in return she learned how humans used renewable power from the sun and wind. Together they built hybrid systems that kept the Valen ships alive, while also giving humans new ideas for their own vessels. Laro, the old teacher, became popular among human children. He told stories of the stars, of journeys across nebulae, of songs sung in the void. The children listened with wide eyes, and soon the stories spread beyond the camps. In return, human teachers invited Valen children to join their schools. The young learned side by side, exchanging languages and dreams. Seasons passed. The desert, once a place of exile, grew alive with gardens and homes. The Valen learned to plant in soil, to harvest with their hands, to taste fresh fruit from the earth. They still kept their songs of the void, but now they sang them under skies full of clouds instead of steel ceilings. Humanity, in turn, discovered that these fragile exiles carried wisdom that no book had ever held. Still, shadows lingered at the edges. Some humans feared the presence of aliens, whispering that they might bring danger. Some Valen feared betrayal, remembering too well the cruelty of the galaxy. But each time doubt rose, it was answered with action. A shared meal, a repaired roof, a hand offered in friendship. Piece by piece, suspicion gave way to cooperation. One night, Saren stood again with both peoples gathered. He looked to the stars and then to the faces around him. "We are no longer only exiles. We are part of this world now. You have given us more than survival. You have given us belonging. And in return, we will stand with you as you have stood with us." Cheers rose from both sides. The fire burned bright, casting light over humans and Velan seated together. The journey of exile had ended and a new journey had begun. Not one of wandering, but of learning, of building, of living side by side. For the first time in their long history, the Velan felt the word home take shape in their hearts. And for humanity, it was the first step into a greater galaxy, not as conquerors, but as friends who had chosen to open their arms when others had turned away. News of the Velan's survival traveled faster than any of them expected. Ships from distant star systems passed near Earth and reported the strange alliance between humans and aliens who had once been exiled. Some of the great civilizations laughed at the idea. How could a young, untested species protect a broken people? Many dismissed it as temporary, thinking the Velan would eventually fade away like they had before. Yet as months passed, the whispers grew louder. Observers watched from afar and saw something unexpected. The Velan were thriving on Earth. Their ships, once patched and weak, were repaired with human engineering. Their people, once silent and fearful, now walked openly among humans. Their children played freely. The alliance of Earth and exiles was not fragile. It was strong and growing. Back on Earth, Saren and Mira walked through the growing settlements. The desert had changed. Fields stretched in neat rows filled with plants taught by both humans and Velan. Workshops hummed with activity as hybrid machines were built. Children laughed in 2 languages, running between tents and buildings, sharing games and songs. Life was no longer a struggle for every day. It had begun to flourish. Humans watched the Velan carefully. They had no desire to dominate them, but they were curious. Every day brought lessons. The humans learned star charts from Velan navigators. They learned how to extract energy from rare minerals more efficiently. And they learned patience, for the Velan had long experience in waiting, surviving, and planning over generations. Not all whispers from the galaxy were kind. Messages came from council worlds questioning Earth's choices. Why shelter exiles who gave humans the right to interfere? They warned of consequences, claiming that alliances might shift against them. But humans, still young but firm in their values, did not retreat. They responded politely, stating only that all life had value and those in need deserved aid. Some Velan feared trouble. They remembered the betrayal of the Council and the years of exile. Many worried that one day the galaxy would send fleets to take them back by force. But Saren reminded them that fear had guided them for too long. "We survived the void," he said. "We survived despair. Now we have allies who stand with us. Let us live. Let us build. And let the stars see that kindness can be stronger than cruelty." Humans also learned from these warnings. They realized that the galaxy might not welcome Earth's choices. They built defensive systems not to attack but to protect. They trained pilots and engineers working alongside the Velan. Together they constructed ships designed for speed and endurance, combining human strength and Velan knowledge. Every day Earth became harder to ignore. A human leader named Kara often spoke with Saren and Mira about the future. "The galaxy will not wait for us to grow weak," she said. "They may test us, but if we stand together, we can show that protecting others is not weakness. It is strength." Saren nodded, his eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Then we must teach our people to be ready, not for fear, but for courage." Observing from orbit, alien fleets took notes. They could not understand why humans and Velan worked so closely. They saw exiles who had once been written off as weak, now building new ships and learning fast. They saw humans sharing knowledge rather than taking advantage. Some fleets reported that Earth was becoming a force to consider, not because of weapons, but because of determination and unity. Life on the ground continued. Markets opened in the settlements where humans and Velan traded goods. Children learned each other's languages faster than the elders expected. Festivals celebrated both human holidays and Velan traditions. Songs from the stars joined songs from the earth, creating a melody neither species had heard before. Each day trust grew. Each day the alliance became more visible to the galaxy, but not everyone watched quietly. A distant civilization called the Orvani, proud and old, began to plan. They believed that no one should defy the council. The whispers of Earth and Velan had reached their ears. They saw unity where there should be weakness. They saw hope where they expected despair, and they feared it. Still, for the Velan and humans living on Earth, the Orvani were just a shadow on the edge of thought. Every day offered lessons, repairs, laughter, and work. Every day proved that survival was possible when kindness met courage. And with each passing season, the settlements grew stronger, more capable, and more prepared for whatever whispers from the galaxy might turn into storms of steel. For the first time in generations, the Velan did not wait in fear. They acted, they learned, they built, and alongside humans they made it clear that those who had been cast out could rise, and those who had been young and untested could teach the galaxy a new truth. Strength was not only in fleets or weapons, strength was in loyalty, unity, and the courage to protect life when others refused. The calm of Earth's settlements did not last long. Reports from orbit brought word that a fleet from the Orvani civilization was moving closer. Ships larger than any humans had seen before crossed the void with silent precision. They were heavily armed and spoke through transmissions that demanded the Velan be surrendered. The Council of Earth listened in alarm, but the message was clear. The Orvani saw the Velan as property of the galaxy, their exile an old law that could not be broken. They did not care that humans had offered shelter, or that the Velan had survived only through unity. In their eyes, rules mattered more than life. The humans and Velan gathered in councils to plan their response. Fear and determination hung together in every discussion. Saren spoke to both peoples, his voice steady. We have survived the void. We have learned to live with one another. If they come, we will not surrender. Not because we are strong enough to fight, but because we are strong enough to stand. Mira added her voice. She had helped design hybrid ships combining human engines with Velan technology. We are ready. Our ships are faster than they seem. Our weapons are few but precise. And our people will fight for each other. That is strength no fleet can calculate. Human leaders acted quickly. Engineers reinforced the settlements and set up defensive stations along the coasts and in the mountains. Pilots trained day and night, preparing for the moment when Orvani ships might attempt an invasion. Scientists worked on energy shields that could protect entire fleets. Together, humans and Velan prepared a defense that relied on intelligence, unity, and strategy rather than sheer numbers. As the Orvani fleet approached the solar system, a human diplomat sent a final message. It was calm and respectful but firm. The Velan are under our protection. Any attack will be met with resistance. We do not seek war, but we will not allow harm to those who have found shelter here. The Orvani responded with cold silence, their ships moving like shadows across the void. The first engagement came near the orbit of Jupiter. A small scouting fleet of Orvani ships attempted to test Earth's defenses. The hybrid Velan human vessels met them with speed and precision. They dodged energy beams and returned accurate fire. No ship was lost, though both sides recognized the seriousness of the encounter. It was a warning that the challenge had begun. On Earth, families watched the skies nervously. Children were kept away from open areas. Engineers and pilots worked in shifts around the clock. The atmosphere was tense, yet a strange energy of hope persisted. Humans and Velan knew they were outnumbered, yet the trust between them created a force stronger than any numbers could measure. Saren gathered the Velan leaders before the night of the main confrontation. "Do not fear the Orvani," he said. "They will measure us by old rules, by fleets and numbers. We will show them that unity, courage, and loyalty are stronger than any law. We fight not because we desire war, but because we value life and friendship." Mira added practical advice. "Stay with your crews, follow the plans, and trust the humans. We have trained together. We know each other's strengths. That is why we will survive." The humans prepared their own final strategies. Kara, the commander, addressed both humans and Velan. "This battle is not just for Earth or the Velan. It is for the principle that kindness is not weakness. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. Today, the galaxy will see that unity creates power that cannot be measured by weapons alone." When the Orvani fleet entered the solar system, they were met by a wall of human and Velan ships. Though outnumbered, they moved with precision, using careful formations to confuse the enemy. Every ship acted in coordination, humans and Velan side by side. Energy beams flashed, shields shimmered, and the void around Jupiter filled with movement. The battle tested everyone. Pilots performed daring maneuvers. Engineers repaired damaged systems mid-fight, and commanders adjusted plans constantly. Yet despite the fear, no panic spread. Every human and Velan fighter knew why they were standing together. It was not for glory or conquest. It was for survival and loyalty. After hours of intense engagement, the Orvani began to realize that the alliance was stronger than they expected. They had counted only the size of fleets, the firepower, and the old laws of the galaxy. They had not counted courage, cooperation, or trust. Slowly, the Orvani fleet withdrew, leaving the solar system for now. The humans in Velan did not celebrate loudly. Instead, they repaired their ships, tended to the injured, and comforted those who had faced the fear of destruction. The challenge had been met, and they had stood together. They had shown the galaxy that numbers alone could not measure strength. That night, Saren and Mira walked together on the surface of Earth, looking at the stars. "We survived the first test," Saren said quietly. "But the galaxy will watch. They will try again." Mira nodded. "Then we will be ready. We are no longer only exiles or newcomers. We are a people who protect each other. That is our power." And so, the challenge of the Orvani became the first proof of something greater. Humanity had shown that protecting others was not weakness. The Velan had shown that survival depended on courage and trust. Together, they had met a threat no one had expected and had emerged stronger. The galaxy had whispered warnings, but Earth had answered with action. And the stars themselves seemed to notice the change. The Velan, once cast out and lost, now had allies they could trust. Humanity, once considered small and weak, had proven that compassion could shape the future. The solar system was tense. Scouts reported distant fleets approaching, larger and faster than before. The Orvani were returning, determined to enforce their law and take the Velan back. But Earth was ready. Humans and Velan stood side by side, not as two peoples, but as one alliance. The lessons of survival, trust, and unity had brought them here. Saren walked among the ships, his hands resting on the metal railings. He spoke quietly to each crew, offering encouragement. "We have survived before. We have learned to trust. Today we show the galaxy that life cannot be measured by old rules. We fight not for conquest, but for protection." Mira worked in the command center, overseeing repairs and systems. Her fingers flew over controls, checking shields, weapons, and communications. Every hybrid system she had helped design was ready. The human engineers worked beside her, calm and confident. "We will not fail," she said. "Every person, every ship, every mind matters. We are ready to act together." Commander Kara addressed the assembled forces. Her voice carried over all channels. "This is not just a battle for Earth or the Velan. This is a stand for what is right. We fight for life, for trust, and for the courage to protect others. Let every action today remind the galaxy that strength is more than numbers. It is unity, it is loyalty, it is heart." The Orvani fleet entered the system in a disciplined formation. Their ships gleamed in the light of the yellow sun, larger than any human or Velan vessel. Their commanders spoke of victory before the first exchange of fire. Yet as they approached, they discovered that Earth and the Velan had prepared well. Energy shields flared across the fleets. Human and Velan vessels moved in coordinated patterns, dodging attacks, striking with precise fire, and protecting weaker ships. The hybrid ships of Velan design moved faster than expected, weaving between the larger Orvani vessels and striking at vital systems. Engineers worked tirelessly, repairing hulls and reactors even as beams of energy flashed across the void. From the surface of Earth, people watched the skies. Lights flashed like distant stars as ships moved in patterns that seemed almost alive. Humans and Velan children pointed to shapes and colors, learning the language of the stars through battle formations. The elders whispered prayers not for victory but for protection of all life. Hours passed. The Orvani tried again and again, but they could not break the alliance. Each time a human or Velan ship faltered, another took its place. Every attempt to divide the forces was met with coordinated defense. The Orvani began to realize that this was not a fleet acting in panic or desperation. This was a united force, prepared to defend what they valued. In the command center, Mira watched the progress and spoke into the comm. "Hold steady. Do not waste energy on pride. Every movement counts. Protect the settlements. Protect each other." Saren nodded from his post on a cruiser. "We fight for survival and for life. That is our advantage. Courage cannot be measured by size alone." The Orvani fleet wavered. Their calculations had not included the loyalty and courage that fueled the alliance. They had not expected humans and Velan to act with perfect timing, to cover each other's weaknesses, to trust each other so completely. Slowly, the fleet began to retreat, leaving the solar system in order to regroup. The crews cheered quietly, though not in arrogance. They knew this was only one battle. But it was proof. Proof that the galaxy could not judge strength by appearance, by size, or by law alone. It was proof that unity and trust could stand against the most powerful fleets. On the surface of Earth, Saren walked among the people. Children ran past laughing. Elders smiled with relief. Mira joined him and they watched the stars in silence. "We have survived," she said softly. "Not because we are the strongest, but because we were together." Kara addressed the world through broadcast systems. Today the galaxy witnessed a truth. Protecting life is not weakness. Standing with those who are cast out is not folly. We showed that courage and loyalty are stronger than fear and rules. Earth and the Valen have taken a stand, and that stand will not be forgotten. The Valen looked at humans with gratitude and respect. They remembered their long exile, the years spent drifting in silence, the fear of the void. And now they understood something new. Humanity had given them life, safety, and friendship. Humanity had shown them that even a young species could stand tall in the galaxy. The night fell over the settlements. Fires burned, tents and buildings glowing softly. Families sat together sharing meals, stories, and songs. Children sang in 2 languages, their voices carrying over the quiet desert. It was a simple moment, but it held the weight of everything they had endured. Saren stood on a hill overlooking the camp. He looked at the stars, at the ships, at the people who had fought beside him. "We were exiles," he said quietly. "We were lost. But today we are no longer alone. We are strong because we are together. Let the galaxy remember this day." Mira placed a hand on his shoulder. "The journey is not over. The galaxy will watch and we will continue to teach and protect. But tonight we rest. We celebrate. And we know that together we can face whatever comes next." For the first time in generations, the Valen and humans felt truly united. They had faced fear, exile, and powerful enemies. They had fought, survived, and learned to trust one another completely. And as the stars shone above, they understood that this was only the beginning of a greater journey. Together, they had shown the galaxy that courage, loyalty, and friendship could stand against even the greatest power. Humanity had taken a stand, and in doing so had changed the fate of the Valen forever.